After a while, she is visibly shaken by our dude's presence at school, because she is ashamed of her past. She has come this far without anyone knowing the darkness of her past. She hopes that Shirone won't remember anything, but then, she recalls a memory from 5 years ago, and her imagination runs wild. She imagines how our dude will reveal that she was hanging out with thugs in that alleyway. Not only that, but he will also expose how she wanted those thugs to check him out. With determination, she decides that she can't let that happen. It was a misunderstanding, and she won't let him reveal her secret to anyone, regardless of the price. Meanwhile, our boy is already getting goosebumps from her stare. Now, Romy asks the students who can tell her about the spirit zone. Someone answers that it is the mind of a mage. She agrees while adding that its first form is a sphere for concentration. However, in real-life experiences, a sphere is insufficient. Then she shows everyone her spirit zone. Our boy can't believe his eyes that he can actually see her spirit zone clearly. It is a 10-meter diameter image zone. She explains that this is a basic form of the spirit zone, but it can't be used by mages. So, she starts with an example, trying to hit the target with magic. For this purpose, she explains that the spirit zone's diameter is 10 meters, while the target is 20 meters away. So, she tries to shoot a fireball. Shirone is nervously excited to finally see magic. He watches as Romy creates a small fireball on her fingertip and shoots it toward the target. However, as soon as it leaves the diameter of the spirit zone, it disappears. She explains to her students that magic can't be performed or controlled outside of the spirit zone, so they need to change the shape of their spirit zone. With that, she alters the sphere, and now she can hit the target. She is amazed to see the shocked yet cute faces of her students. Our guy, however, is stunned to see that they can change the shape of the spirit zone. Romy continues her lesson, explaining that there is a downside to this method, as it requires a great amount of concentration. In situations like battle, it's not possible to change the shape of the zone with every spell, so she introduces the quaternion of the spirit zone, in which 4 shapes are introduced: defense, attack, cross, and schism. The defensive shape is like a cube, which helps them keep their spirit zone intact under significant disruption. They can also increase its defensive power by adding more layers. Next is the attack shape, which looks like a star and helps them reach their target for attack purposes. The cross shape, as the name suggests, looks like a cross, but people think it's not good for hitting a moving target. So, they need to add rotation to the cross. The class is in awe, while seeing that she has done all of this without any difficulty, and they wonder whether they can do it. Meanwhile, our boy thinks that the circumference of the cross must be around 10 meters for it to be used in battle. Romy comes to the last shape, called the schism shape, which is so difficult that even Class 5 is still taking time to perfect it. However, she decides to show it. The student behind our boy boasts that she can upgrade her class if she manages to do it, since she already has high marks in Class 8. But as soon as Romy does it, everyone is completely shocked to see this kind of spirit zone leave her body. Our guy also doesn't understand. If the spirit zone is the mind of a mage, how can she separate it from her body? He finds something at the center of the shape. Romy explains that this kind of shape is so difficult that some mages specialize in it because it makes the mage limitless. It can be pushed directly toward the target for direct invocation and has endless other applications, as they might imagine. Everyone is in awe, seeing how the teacher can do it without any difficulty. That's why she is a level 6 mage. She then turns to the class, while saying that they are going to practice before leaving the ground, which excites the class. Then she asks Amy to display her spirit zone. Amy's friends are excited, hoping she will surpass the boys and impress the teachers. But when they turn to her, they find Amy's expression quite grave. She is full of nerves, while dreading to reveal herself to Shirone. Basically, the spirit zone quaternion known as the cross gains strength based on its length. The main challenge is dealing with fast-moving opponents or multiple enemies at a single time. However, those with the mental ability to control a spinning cross can overcome these limitations while using its long range and strong defense as an unbreakable shield. Amy explains this by demonstration of her magic. The students are amazed by Amy's skill. While most people keep changing shapes during the gun spell test, she achieves the highest score using only a cross. Our hero wonders if he could ever match her level while realizing that even as a beginner, she is already exceptional. He notices that her spirit zone spins steadily without a single target, yet she moves effortlessly while showing no signs of fatigue. Her graceful movements make her presence even more striking. Another student watches her in admiration while thinking that if he could be with a girl like her, school might actually be enjoyable. However, a nearby girl quickly dismisses his thoughts while reminding him that Amy doesn't pay attention to anyone, regardless of their status. Shirone understands why they are so captivated, as Amy comes from a highly respected family and seems nearly perfect. What he cannot understand is why someone like her chooses to associate with thugs in her past. As the round ends, she reaches level 9 in just 20 seconds while leaving everyone speechless. All the students cheer for her. Some boys discuss whether they have seen correctly that Amy glanced at our boy. She becomes frustrated, as even a brief glance at him feels unbearable. Other students wonder if they know each other, but some dismiss the idea while pointing out that he is a new admission and making it unlikely. Meanwhile, our boy remains completely positive and confident. However, both of them realize that other remembers them. Amy realizes it will be difficult if he reveals anything about her to everyone. Deciding to stay calm, she convinces herself that no one will believe a new admission, so she must avoid doing anything suspicious. Sariel approaches and asks what is wrong while noticing Amy's flushed face, but she insists that nothing has happened. During class practice, after the demonstration, all the students gather. Professor Romy instructs Class 7 to first prepare for a defensive position and master it while emphasizing that a mage must stay focused even in battle. Our boy realizes that the key is sensing the mind-tightening process, which involves compressing spirits into a structure and setting up its frame to prevent collapse. He believes he has already achieved this but remains uncertain since it is not visible to him. He asks Professor Romy if he can use the image zone while shocking her. She tells him he cannot use it, as only senior classes are permitted, but he remains undeterred, determined to seize this opportunity. She notices his confidence and acknowledges that no one else is using it at the moment while making it a unique chance for him. Meanwhile, Amy and Sariel stand together while watching. Sariel points out that the new boy is using the image zone, but Amy is shocked to see this, as he is only in Class 7. Sariel asks if she is alright, but Amy remains speechless. Students begin whispering among themselves as Shirone steps into the center. Determined, he prepares to use the image zone while feeling an intense urge to connect with his spirit zone. As he activates it, the students are taken aback by its sheer size. The diameter continues expanding, and they are astonished by its enormity. Our boy wonders how much larger it will grow but eventually stops. The image zone reaches approximately 20 meters in diameter. The students of Class 5 start questioning whether he truly belongs in Class 7. The students discuss how our boy has purposefully expanded the image zone while leaving them amazed. He soon realizes that he has successfully managed to stop it as well. Deciding to take a defensive shape, he suddenly notices the spirit zone collapsing, something he has never experienced before. Amy believes it is impossible for him to achieve this on his first attempt. However, he remains confident and focused while analyzing the difference between the inner and outer sides of the image zone. Recalling Professor Romy's explanation, he remembers that changing the shape of the spirit zone demands significant mental power. Since he has also compressed it into a smaller size, it is consuming even more of his mental ability. Understanding this, he decides to keep it at its original size rather than reducing it further. As the students watch in astonishment, they begin commenting on what is happening in the sky. They realize that the spirit zone is expanding again, now reaching 28 meters. Completely shocked, they struggle to comprehend what they are witnessing. Amy recognizes its immense scale, noting that the image zone has now grown to 41 meters. Maintaining balance, he keeps the sides of the image zone equal before folding them into the defensive shape. The students find it incredible and cheer for him, impressed that he has accomplished this on his first attempt. Meanwhile, he perceives himself as if standing inside a solid form of his image zone. Professor Romy observes his skill and acknowledges his remarkable ability to form the defensive shape on his first try. Sariel, while standing beside Amy, comments that this is why the teachers have been paying more attention to the new admission. Amy laughs but remains deep in thought. Recalling the humiliation he caused her, she begins to suspect that someone may have arranged his admission as a special request. Believing that his influence could be detrimental to the school, she decides to change her approach and confront him personally. Professor Romy thinks he is completely trained for this. He then asks the professor why the spirit zone becomes smaller, but she simply explains that its density increases as it shrinks, while making it more resistant to magic attacks. She praises him for his amazing work and asks him to disassemble it, to which he feels thankful. As he does so, all the students begin congratulating him for his effort. He wonders why everyone is staring at him, but eventually thanks them and leaves the place. Professor Romy, deeply impressed by the defensive position he created, decides to keep an eye on him. Meanwhile, many people are looking for him because of his outstanding talent. The students also realize he will advance in classes very soon due to his remarkable abilities. Maria, while sitting in the class, reflects on how amazing he is. Among the crowd, admirers and adversaries alike watch him, with Amy giving him a lingering stare. The very next day, new faces appear, secretly observing him. As the class begins, Professor Oliver enters. He immediately recognizes her as she was the one from his exam, but he never knew she was the professor of Class 5. The students find it thrilling to have a lesson with her. Yet the only reason she is here is to teach our dude. She then wonders if Professor Thad is searching for her as well, but decides to take him into Class 5 to learn more about him. Our boy gets goosebumps as he notices the professor staring in his direction. One of the students then asks her for a funny story, while others curiously inquire if she is dating Professor Thad. Annoyed by the question, she swiftly moves her hands while demonstrating a unique magic technique, before challenging the students to explain its magical principle. Shifting the focus, she questions them about cold energy and cooling as she casts her spell. Suddenly, frost spreads through the room, and a chilling sensation fills the air while making the students shiver. She explains that coolness results from energy deficiency, and that cold energy itself does not exist. As the temperature drops further, they tremble from the cold. She then mentions that temperature can be increased infinitely, whereas the state she is demonstrating represents absolute zero, the point of energy depletion. She elaborates that at room temperature, while removing even a small amount of energy causes ice crystals to form, and by breaking them down, she can easily generate an electric current. The students, overwhelmed by the freezing atmosphere, question whether such magic could impact people's lives and even wonder if she has just attempted to harm them. Shifting the discussion, she asks if they understand how mages absorb energy and invoke magic. She begins teaching that a mage serves as the core of their world through their spirit zone, which may be small, yet remains under their influence. Possessing unique senses, a mage can control various natural phenomena, but these abilities are only beneficial if used wisely. She further explains that two godlike criteria must be met to perform magic, which is omniscience and omnipotence. These are the two phenomena through which magic is performed, while making knowledge an essential part of mastering it. A mage must also understand the world itself. Now, our boy realizes the true reason he has been unable to use magic is that he is focused only on his ability, rather than grasping the concept of omniscience. Professor Oliver informs the students that they will gain knowledge in numerous subjects at this school, while emphasizing that learning the spirit zone is only half of magic. Those who study diligently will become exceptional mages. She then announces that they will begin with the basics of chemistry, while leaving the students in shock. However, our dude quickly realizes that he has an advantage, as he already understands these phenomena. Outside the school, a group of girls is talking, with one asking another if she plans to visit the library. The other responds that she will, as she has a test coming up. Meanwhile, inside the library, a group of students gathers while discussing topics for their experiment. Since classes have ended, many students either spend their time in the library or engage in club activities. Our boy reflects on his daily routine while realizing that spending time in the library will aid his education in magic. However, exhaustion weighs on him, and he starts feeling drowsy. Now, he begins to question whether he can create a spell to eliminate sleep. As he walks through the garden, his fatigue intensifies. But suddenly he finds himself rising into the air. Shocked, he struggles to comprehend what is happening. Realization strikes when he feels someone holding him from behind. His mind races, unsure whether it is a person or a spirit. The grip remains firm until he is gently lowered to the ground in the woods. As he turns to see his captor, his shock deepens as it is Amy. He recalls that how he had always imagined they would meet again, but he never expected to be kidnapped by her. Memories flood his mind while making him question whether she is the same as he remembered from 5 years ago. Amy, while noticing his recognition, acknowledges it. Then, with a swift motion, she casts a spell into the air while igniting flames around her, ready to settle the matter. She remembers the time when they meet first time. Amy stands there as the goons begin beating him. However, she soon orders them to stop while realizing it could cause him serious harm. Initially, she intends to send him back home, but curiosity takes over that he has yet to receive what she has planned for him. Now, both sit facing each other, and she wonders if he is truly the same person she met 5 years ago. He assures her that he remembers her, as she orders the goons to take off his clothes. Suddenly she shouts while telling him to stop. She quickly explains that he has completely misunderstood the situation. Clearing her stance, she insists that she is not a sadistic person, and that removing his clothes was the goon's decision, not her command. When he asks if she was the one who examined him, she immediately denies it while asserting that he has it all wrong. She firmly states that she has never been interested in boys. He then questions whether she kidnapped him merely to clarify herself. He wonders if she's worried that he might spread rumors about her. But to him, the situation is equally embarrassing for him as well. Without hesitation, he demands that she simply apologize, while believing that everything can be forgotten afterward. He reminds her that she is the top student and highly popular in school, so apologizing should not be difficult for her. Hearing his words, she suddenly feels a sense of discomfort. As he turns to leave, she remains standing while contemplating whether she made a mistake by interfering. A small smile appears on her face at his request for an apology. Then, while calling out to him, she firmly states that she will never apologize, as it would bring her no benefit. He stops in shock while listening as she continues. She then casually tells him that she is sorry and assures him that they will not betray each other. However, she immediately adds that if she truly apologizes, It would mean admitting that everything happened because of her, which would not be in her best interest. Hearing this, he questions whether she only apologizes when it benefits her. He asserts that an apology is a matter of basic manners and should not require any personal gain in return. Amy tells him that he does not understand the ways of this world, where everyone rises only to gain benefits and returns. To her, his words are meaningless, with no real application in the world. She concludes that magic school will be difficult for him to navigate. However, our boy soon realizes that she has not changed at all, and she is still the same girl he met before. Now, believing they stand on equal ground, she asks him about the scariest thing he knows at this school. Before he can answer, she explains that it is the upperclassmen, who can easily become enemies if provoked. If they discover that he is not a noble, they will have no trouble expelling him. He then questions whether she fears him exposing her and wants him out of the school. She immediately denies it while stating that they will have to wait and see how trustworthy he truly is. To prove his reliability, she declares that from now on he must bring her coffee every day. Shocked by her demand, he struggles to process her words. Amy tells him that he is considered a special student at the school, and she cannot even imagine how difficult it must have been for him to gain admission. She reminds him that after all his struggles, he could easily be expelled. Hearing this, our dude finally accepts her demand while hoping to earn her trust. She advises him to remain consistent, as his future depends on it, and warns him to keep everything hidden from the teachers, or the consequences will not be in his favor. With that, she takes off while disappearing from his sight. Left sitting on the ground, he contemplates his situation, realizing that complying is a better option than being expelled. Frustrated and exhausted, he acknowledges that nothing is going to be easy at the start. The next day, in the library, students begin gathering. Among them, a group of girls notices him and whispers to one another while finding it strange that he is bringing coffee for Amy. As he hands her the cup, Serial watches in surprise. When she asks about the situation, Amy casually dismisses it while claiming that he spilled some coffee on his way. Without further discussion, she leaves while explaining that she needs to study in the library. At that moment, frustration builds within him. Meanwhile, other students speculate about his relationship with Amy while assuming that he has confessed his feelings, but has yet to receive a response. Some even express sympathy for him. Serial then suggests that the new admission, Shirone, might be interested in Amy, but Amy quickly denies it while explaining that she is merely training him to respect his seniors. As she takes a sip of the coffee, she finds it surprisingly refreshing and energizing. A sarcastic thought crosses her mind that forcing him to bring coffee in front of everyone must be humiliating for him. When he calls out to Amy again, the girls assume that he is still pursuing her despite her rejection. Meanwhile, Amy feels triumphant while believing that no one will believe his side of the story. She revels in the thought that, after 5 years, she has finally taken her revenge while leaving her feeling incredible. Our dude, however, sees it as nothing more than bullying. He struggles to decide how to handle the situation, while knowing that reacting with anger would only make things worse for him. Determined to endure, he resolves to complete the task perfectly while accepting that he must continue doing this for now. After 10 days, the atmosphere at the magic school changes. A group of girls cheers for him, while commenting on how he has been expressing his feelings for Amy for days without receiving a response. Amy, feeling confident, believes she can easily put an end to the situation. Serial then asks Amy when she plans to accept him. But Amy dismisses the idea, while insisting that she has never been interested in boys. Serial points out that everyone is talking about them and reminds her that she has waited for him, which is something she has never done for any other boy before. She also mentions that people are beginning to see him as a good match for her. Shocked by this realization, Amy does not know how to respond. Just then, he appears while holding out a cup of coffee. With a calm expression, he hands it to Amy while emphasizing that this time, it is not spilled. Annoyed by the crowd surrounding them, he silently urges her to take the cup quickly so he can head to the library. On the other side, as she surveys the situation, frustration builds within her while making her wonder if this entire ordeal is just a joke. Shirone offers coffee to Amy, but she hesitates to take it. The students around encourage her, even joking about taking Shirone as well. However, Amy is preoccupied with getting to the library and suddenly spills the coffee and angrily telling him to leave her alone. Her reaction surprises everyone. She accuses him of trying to win her over with coffee and criticizes his lack of focus on studies. She also tells him to stop bringing her coffee. Some girls apologize to our guy on Amy's behalf while calling her behavior harsh. Serial advises Amy to be mindful of what others might think, but Amy dismisses it while saying her only concern is getting into the senior class. Other students comment on how difficult she is to impress, some even suggesting reporting her for littering. Shirone, feeling surprise, wonders if Amy was serious and decides not to bring her anything from now on. The students around him whisper about his heartbreak, but he feels relief. Later in the evening, Amy sits in the library while reflecting on the situation. She realizes that in trying to prevent rumors about herself, she has ended up creating them instead, though she feels relieved that the matter was settled before it spread further. She knows that is not what truly matters. As her eyes turn red, the ability known as the Red Eye of Karmas activates while allowing her to recall a memory in perfect detail. She visualizes the moment when Shirone offered her coffee and remembers how, over the past 10 days, he has acted exactly the same way. She notes that his expression, even the movement of his iris, never changed. This makes her question whether he can control his emotions like a machine, or if he has been completely sincere all along. After closing her book, Shirone notices her and asks if she is leaving early. Amy confirms that she is feeling a bit tired. When Shirone starts walking with her, Amy reassures her that she can go alone. However, Shirone guesses that Amy is still thinking about refusing Shirone's coffee, which she quickly denies. Shirone reminds her that she can always confide in her, and Amy thanks her before leaving while feeling exhausted. As she steps outside, she thinks about how things did not go as planned while leaving her mind in chaos. She just wants some rest. Outside the library, Jake is waiting and greets her while mentioning that she finished early. He jokes that he expected to wait until midnight. She questions why he is there, and he brings up the rumors about Shirone following her. Frustrated, she assumes he came just to tease her. But he denies it and hands her a cup of high-quality coffee while stating that someone of her status should not drink anything inferior. His words irritate her, and she demands to know what he is trying to do. He openly admits that he is trying to win her over while claiming that, as the future heir of a prestigious family, he is a much better match for her than Shirone. Annoyed, she dismisses his advances while calling his actions ridiculous. Jake takes offense and questions her choice of words. She coldly reminds him that they are not close enough to have such conversations, and accuses his research club of constantly trying to undermine her. He tries to clarify but also warns her about disrespecting him, as it is the same as dishonoring his family. He expects her to understand, given that she belongs to the great house Karmas. Amy yells at Jake while calling him pathetic. She accuses him of letting his small amount of popularity inflate his ego and claims that, without the support of his family, he would not even be able to write his own name. Furthermore, she criticizes him for being nothing more than a parasite, while using the research club as an excuse to harass others. In her eyes, he has no honor. However, Jake simply laughs at her words. He expresses disbelief and dismisses her as just another arrogant noble from the first class, eager to flaunt status. Moreover, he questions who in the Karmas family actually holds any real power, while arguing that they survive solely on their name. In contrast, his family, backed by immense wealth, could easily crush hers. He then asks if she finally understands his position. At that moment, Amy nods while indicating that she does. She remarks that his eyes reveal his true nature, comparing them to those of a scoundrel, unlike Shirone, whose gaze feels genuine. Jake's eyes, in her opinion, resemble the dull, lifeless scales of a rotting fish. Shocked by her words, Jake demands to know if she truly believes that Shirone is better than him. Realizing that he has approached the situation the wrong way, he concludes that he should have dealt with Shirone before coming to her. Without hesitation, he then vows to ensure that our guy will never be able to use magic again. Jake declares that he will show Amy just how powerful he is. However, before he can act, she launches an attack while prompting him to shout at her while calling her an arrogant woman. He warns that her appearance will not protect her from him. In response, she confidently uses her magic and challenges him to make a move. As he observes her actions, he wonders how she managed to set up a cross formation from such a distance. Shocked, he reminds her that magic is forbidden in this place. However, she only laughs while mocking him by asking what he plans to do about it. She then compares him to Shirone while pointing out that, unlike Jake, our boy does not rely on his family for success. Instead, he takes responsibility for his own actions. Furthermore, she predicts that in just 6 months, Jake will be left far behind while struggling to keep up. Frustrated, Jake begins to make a threat but suddenly pauses. He notices that the area around him is filled with oxygen while realizing that if he activates his spirit zone, she might set it on fire. Acknowledging that he stands no chance in a duel against the top student in their class, he quickly decides on an alternative way to get revenge for what he sees as an insult. Before leaving, he issues a warning while vowing that she will regret this. Once he is gone, Amy takes a moment to reflect. She admits that she got a little carried away, but wonders why she reacted so strongly. Eventually, she realizes that her concern stems from the possibility of Shirone being in danger if the truth were ever exposed. With a sigh, she acknowledges that she no longer has anyone bringing her coffee. However, at the very least, things feel much simpler now. Several days later, the consequences of Amy's actions begin to unfold. Shirone receives a note written by Amy. When Shirone sees it, he immediately recognizes its meaning and realizes that Amy has gone to save him. A while ago, when Shirone walks through the school, some students immediately notice him and point him out while calling him the coffee delivery boy. They express disappointment while remarking that it is unfortunate the situation ended, as it had been entertaining to watch. Meanwhile, he reflects on the past few days. Ever since that incident 3 days ago, he has been unsure of how to face Amy. However, he soon realizes that the situation did not last as long as he had initially expected. In fact, he originally thought he would be tormented for at least a month. But now, some of the suspicions surrounding him seem to be fading. Just then, he notices Serial and tries to recognize her. As he recalls their last conversation, he suddenly remembers her apologizing on Amy's behalf when the coffee was spilled, and even encouraging him by saying that love is a struggle. At that moment, he acknowledges that she does not seem like a bad person. Nevertheless, he finds it unusual since she is usually always with Amy. Curious if something is wrong, he finally calls out her name. Serial, upon seeing him, immediately appears shocked and demands to know what he is doing there. He quickly hands him a note written by some dark magicians. As he carefully reads it, he gradually realizes the seriousness of the matter, and, without hesitation, asks her if she knows anything about the dark magicians. Serial explains everything that has happened to Shirone while making sure he understands the situation. About 30 minutes earlier, she was with Amy, and Jake's lackey immediately greets her with a smirk while complimenting her appearance. However, she coldly reminds him that she never gave him permission to speak to her, while adding that she had already told him to back off. Ignoring her words, he simply laughs and mocks her for still acting superior. Without wasting any time, he informs her that the boss wants to see her and hands her a note. Serial, clearly annoyed, tells Amy to ignore him. However, Amy sighs in disbelief while remarking that they have somehow made it to Class 5. At that moment, Jake delivers another message while warning her that she should come as instructed unless, of course, she does not care if her man is destroyed. Disgusted, Serial snaps at him while calling him revolting before urging Amy to head to the library with her. Meanwhile, Amy looks down at the note and quickly realizes that Shirone has been kidnapped. As she recalls Jake's previous threat to make sure Shirone could never use magic again, she immediately suspects him while cursing his name in anger. However, a moment later, she hesitates and tries to convince herself that it should not matter, and after all, our boy means nothing to her. When she questions the boy about it, he simply reminds her that he is only the messenger. Serial, while growing more concerned, mentions that the dark magicians are nothing more than a gang that bullies students who attract too much attention. She questions why they would target Shirone, and how Amy could be connected to the situation. In response, Amy silently reflects on the moment she lost control and ended up attacking Jake while realizing that this might be the reason for Shirone's involvement. Serial insists that she needs to report this to a professor, which is not just for Shirone's sake, but for her own safety as well. Amy, deep in thought, acknowledges that informing a professor would be the right thing to do. However, she also understands that the situation is more complicated than it seems. If the council gets involved, they will uncover what happened between her and Shirone, which could ultimately lead to the truth about her past being revealed. Furthermore, they would also find out that Shirone is not actually a noble. She then recalls a conversation with Shirone, where she had acknowledged the struggles of a commoner trying to enter such a prestigious school. She had even pointed out how devastating it would be for him to be expelled. In that moment, she remembers his unwavering determination, as he had assured her that if proving his innocence meant earning her trust, he would do whatever it took. Determined, she makes up her mind to rescue him on her own. She tells Serial that she will investigate the situation herself and inform her professor if she does not return by 7. Serial, shocked, questions why she would go alone while reminding her that she has no idea how many enemies she might be up against. However, Amy firmly states that she has no choice but to handle it herself. She reassures Serial not to worry, confidently declaring that even if Jake brings along a dozen worthless followers, she will take them all down. Now in present, after hearing everything, Shirone reacts in disbelief while repeating that Amy has gone to save him. However, he quickly dismisses the idea while thinking that it cannot be true since she has always been a terrible person. Turning to Serial, he questions why she is just standing around instead of doing something, especially since she just admitted that Amy went alone. Serial, while looking conflicted, explains that Amy insisted she had no choice. She admits that she has never seen Amy act this way before. Furthermore, Amy specifically instructed her to inform her professor only if she does not return by 7. Shirone repeats Amy's words while realizing that the 1-hour delay is a kind of insurance. Additionally, while keeping the matter from the professors must be her way of protecting a secret, he then comes to the conclusion that whatever secret she is hiding must be connected to his own. As a result, he understands that she went alone to ensure his secret remains safe as well. Determined, he declares that he must go find her.